Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you today?
I'm terrific, Mal. Really looking forward to Madrid next week, as we've just been chatting about, but we should focus on the week ahead, which has still got quite a lot to fulfill us.
Just a little bit. So yes, we will return to Madrid later on in the show, but for now, we shall crack on with our property news. All right, so this week, certainly since yesterday, everything has been all about legislation, because that's the kind of wild vibe we love to cover here at the Property AI Report. The government is introducing a consultation around some reforms to the home buying process. And essentially, it's targeting getting the actual length of time it takes to buy a home down significantly. It's about upfront information and more of it before you actually make a purchase. Yeah, it looks like they're serious, right, Matt?
Indeed. It's one we've touched on in the past where the government interventions aren't always healthy, right? But I think we've all been crying out for some time, and reaction to this has been, I guess, mixed. The normal property industry, estate agents today, etc., all came out with differing views of what needs to be done. But unless we sort of grab the bull by the horns here and start to try to change things, I can just see things dragging on forever. So I feel like the government intervening is probably the only way of doing this, especially when we look at other countries who are maybe digitally first more than we are, and actually what the opportunities might be for some significant changes, right?
Yeah, listen, I think it's long overdue. I think that there's all sorts of different initiatives that have been tried over time, and people just kind of, they keep sort of sitting on the starting line. There was another great initiative, the 28 days one that came out a few weeks ago as well. So everything kind of trying to push in this direction, but it has been constantly stymied by the fact that it is just such a difficult and intricate process that involves so many different parties. So it kind of feels like it has to be legislated. It has to come from the top, and somebody has to sit down and say, right, you do this, you do that, and make sure that everybody is following a particular path. So I think it is, I think it's welcome. I think it's time. I worry always that you kind of get one shot at this. And basically, if they screw this up, then it's going to be another 10 years before anybody bothers to change it again. I look back at HIPS because I'm very old, and the home information packs back in like the mid 2000s, where, the idea was really okay, but it was kind of that the government tried to shuffle in these EPCs under the kind of guise of all this. Everyone then got very sweaty about the fact that, is this going to, stop people putting property on the market because they've got to go through all these hoops and stuff like that. And it just became a conflation of different initiatives that in the end just didn't achieve any of them. So, with that in mind, and I'm sure that they're not going to make the same mistakes again. I kind of think it's great. It's good that this is happening. It's heartening that there are smart people contributing as well. Again, you kind of see a lot of support from some of the great good in the industry. But yeah, there's always that kind of just slight concern that they're going to just over-egg it. And they have to row back on it, and then it's going to end up being something that it's just a dog's dinner of stuff that everyone just goes, no, let's just stay where we are. I'm optimistic, but yeah, there's still a lot to be worked out, right?
Yeah, it does feel like they're potentially biting off a lot more than they can chew with this, and especially when you then go into sort of all the working groups, and the working groups, as you use the term conflating, and I think that sort of has that concern around it, doesn't it? Sort of the calls for clarity on liability insurance, the sort of where the cost shifts go, and implementation timescales. With the Renters' Rights Bill, we've seen that for quite some time, and if anything, you could argue that's maybe a little bit simpler than what's trying to be achieved here with so many moving parts.
Yeah, and that's been in the long grass for quite some time, and there's no real sign that it's going to come out of it anytime soon. So yeah, look, of course it is hard. Yes, absolutely. Changing something so complex and huge is hard. And yes, there will be subcommittees on top of subcommittees on top of subcommittees. But yeah, hopefully, and that it is hopeful that in the next couple of years, something will come out of it that's actually implemented, rather than just an extended talking shop where in the end, so many competing interests just kind of neutralize each other, and you end up with just pretty much a big nothing burger, as I believe they call it.
A nothing burger indeed. Well, it doesn't seem to be an echo chamber at the moment anyway, because it's not just our industry papers that have done it, but I believe it was Hit Radio 2. Jeremy Vine was discussing it. There's a whole raft of mainstream news sources got hold of it as well. So I'm just sort of repeating that call that it's not just us that want to change the way this works.
Yeah, and when you say you heard that it was on Radio 2, is that when you were listening to it?
I'm more of a Jeremy Vine, honestly. Radio 2 just for the music, right?
Right, gotcha. All right, really good. Good. All right, so that's our first news of our property section. Next up, we just wanted to cover. I know we dip into the states every once in a while, or reasonably regularly at the moment, because there's so much happening over there, and it's only because there are interesting reflections back across the pond towards us from essentially some litigation that's going on over there. So Zillow is once more being sued, this time by the Federal Trade Commission. So if you thought it was bad enough that their competitors were going after them, now actually it's the kind of the government watchdog that is chasing them down for overselling things, and basically kind of ensuring that because of their market status, because of their brand recognition, that essentially they can force people to take products and services at a higher price, and this includes estate agents or realtors. So it's just interesting because this big old behemoth, which bears striking similarities to our very own and dear Rightmove, is getting absolutely pummeled in the courts by various different bodies because it's being accused of abusing its monopoly position. But I think it's what's most interesting about it is that it has for a long time been able to essentially operate because of its kind of almost Google-esque position in the property market over there with a reasonable amount of impunity. And that seems to be changing because there seems to be a concerted effort by multiple parties to try and change things. What's your take on this, Matt?
I was just taken by the link you put in the show notes to the zitigation.com website. It sounded like something from my teenage years. And this is a page where people can basically sign up, a bit like our Gov dots petitions, isn't it, where you can sign up and get behind it. And one of the last parts is the weaponized litigation link. But I think it certainly carry on slugging out in the courts and making it as noisy as possible. I'd just be interested to see where the dust all settles.
Yeah, absolutely. So that litigation thing. So Mike Del Prete, who's Mike Del Prete, who's a commentator in the States and internationally on property and technology issues. He's vibe coded this website where basically you can. So he's not got background. So I was interested in the fact that he vibe coded this whole website, which is an amazing website. So if you want to go and have a look at it, it is zitigation.com. Go and have a look. And basically it's like it's a lawsuit generator. So you can just put in whatever you want and it will basically come up with a reason why you can sue Zillow. It's brilliant. But yes, I think it is something that is a bit of a cautionary tale. I think in the end, there's a lot of hubris around, how you can carry on as a market leader, as a dominant, as a monopolistic portal. But then in the end, if you aren't doing things in the right way and for the benefit of everybody, and obviously over here in the UK, we've got Sean Adams of Cooper Adams and his target of Rightmove through the Monopolies and Mergers Commission. The Monopolies Competitions Authority, as it's now called. And it's just interesting where these things wind. There's a lot of, I think, bubbling pressure around agents' wallets and the fact they can't afford, the things they might want to. And I think that's going to be some interesting pressure on there as well. And interestingly as well, just kind of segueing from Zillow to some of our AI news. It came out yesterday that OpenAI is allowing big sites such as Zillow, such as Spotify and others to be linked almost like an app store from OpenAI, so from ChatGPT, and that obviously will be open to everybody. But it's it's just a kind of another sign that OpenAI, which we will talk about quite a lot in our AI section, is really pushing into this sort of Apple App Store kind of thing, and also sort of Google links and so on and so forth. So it's just going to be really interesting how that plays out. And actually whether, consumers are much more interested in, is OpenAI going to become the front page to the internet, basically, because that seems to be the kind of way that it wants to go. Okay, next up on our property news, we're just going to talk about Purplebricks and their CRM system. Now, Matt, this is very much your area of expertise. And what are they up to?
So they've actually, their CRM system now, astonishingly, is actually moving towards quite legacy. So obviously that when they burst onto the scene, it was very much a technology-driven approach. And we talked about it on the pod last week, didn't we? And how there was a forced digitization for a lot of estate agents. And even at the time when I was at Repeat, we launched our digital agent that allowed people to get valuations through the website, basically without speaking to a human in the way that Purplebricks had, and that whole online offering that they came along with. But like anything, if you don't keep it up to date, and as things evolve, you need to look out for something new. And I know Paul Morgan, who's previously been at Aaron for quite a while, has just done a similar thing with their CRM, taking it from Fox Pro and rebuilding it via AI. Dan Rafferty, who I know very well, is a good friend of mine, who was at Foxtons in the early years and built out Boss, the business operating system there, having joined from Logica, is now Purplebricks CTO, and he's gone down the route of ditching the CRM that Purplebricks have used for all of this time and gone with an AI-powered no-code system that
Right.
we've talked about this, and certainly I don't think we've seen it here so much, but over in Dubai, there's a lot of AI CRMs turning up, which look like ChatGPT or Claude with a single prompt box, and that deliver your tasks and your viewings and your diary for the day in that sort of styling. And it's the way that technology evolves, doesn't it? There's at times you do need to ditch what you've relied on for so many years and launch something new, and with the agility that AI brings with it. And just before I sort of pass back to you, and I work with Nurture Cloud out of Australia, and they're doing something very similar where they're basically rewriting their entire product from scratch using AI, so that AI understands it and makes sure that you've got all the context of what you've ever built, and that's from infrastructure right the way through to front end. So seeing Dan at the front of this isn't a surprise, and it does show that there's maybe a little bit of life left in the old dog of Purplebricks, from a technology point of view anyway.
Yeah, interesting. No, it is interesting. It's not an area that I'm familiar enough with. But first question is, was the operating system in Foxtons really called Boss?
Yes, business operating system.
Okay, sorry.
Well,
just wanted to
one
go-
S, not double
Okay.
S, like you're from Liverpool.
Oh, that's just a real flex, right there. And yes, so essentially what you've got is an AI, kind of almost like an operating system sitting over the top of a CRM system, which, to an extent, and I think this is absolutely the way that much of it's going to go, right? You're going to have something that either you type into or you talk at, and just say, look, can you give me the last 6 months of valuations that we've been on that have never come to mind?
Mm-hmm.
And then it will go away, and the agent will bring back all that sort of stuff, right?
But you've got that argument, you've got that now, haven't you, with things like Perplexity Comments and even ChatGPT Agent. I used an example at the weekend. We've been doing a lot of work with HubSpot for Complete ASAP, and we're importing deals into a sales pipeline. And for those who use HubSpot, they'll be very aware of this, but HubSpot has almost a sales pipeline of visually representative as you move from left to right, the deals progressing. When you import those deals to link them to the companies in contact, it's actually quite a lot of manual work unless you have that information to hand. But I just put Perplexity Comment on in the weekend and said, look, for each one of these deals we're importing, go off and find the corresponding company and associate it. And it worked away in the background, added all those to HubSpot. So you could argue that technology is there now, right? Using things like Perplexity Comment.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, so if you have that as your browser and you're looking at, say, Repeat on that browser or whatever, or one of the other CRMs, then yeah, you should. There are ways that you can kind of actually get it to interrogate your data and then go off and find other data from elsewhere on the web.
You could be using Repeat Go, their mobile and full browser solution, and say, show me my properties as you just said, and it would go off and interrogate it and return that list.
Yeah, so plenty going on, guys. Yes, it's well worth keeping an eye on and having a little play around with some of those too. All right, and that is our property news for this week. We're going to dive into AI and tech news. Okay, so we just missed this last week, and it has been all the rage all week. Sora 2 is here. And Sora 2 is from OpenAI. Now, let's say it's here. It's only available in the US and Canada, as I checked even like just before we were going on air to see if it was available over here yet, and it's not. But it's coming soon. Now, what is Sora 2? So those who have been listening to me and Matt Yap for a while will remember Sora 1, which came out, I know, probably about a year and a bit ago. And it was groundbreaking at the time. It was certainly groundbreaking conceptually. When they actually delivered it, it was kind of about 6 months after they announced it. And by then, loads and loads of others have kind of caught up and maybe overtaken them a little bit. But it was the first text-to-video concept that actually showed some amazing results, even if those results were a little bit curated. So fast forward to now, and Sora 2 has come out, but it's not just a or an upgrade on Sora 1. It's actually attempting to be its own social media. All right. So it's an app that sits on your phone. Kind of the closest thing I think of is kind of like TikTok. And what you do is you can basically put yourself into a shot. So it will record your face side and side, and then you've got to say a few things. And then it's got your avatar within it. And then you can get your avatar interacting with various things, and you can change it, and you can put yourself as a, I don't know, as an ogre, as a mermaid, I don't know, SpongeBob, whatever you want. And then other people can remix you as well. So it's gone mental. Basically, over in the States, it's like the #1 app download, and that's only with invites, right? It's not been freely released. It's just people with invite codes. So yeah, it's really interesting, and it looks like it might, to build a new social network or to find a new way of doing social media is really hard, and loads of people tried it. And as you said, Matt, there's a couple of weeks back, we had Meta releasing their Vibes, which was just basically AI, but AI without you in it. So I don't think it's got quite the hyper personalization that people kind of really like these days. But what's your take on this new fad?
Well, I think you touched on before, not so much a fad. It's where, well, it is a fad, but it drives adoption, doesn't it? So we saw it when everyone was sort of Studio Ghibli-fying themselves, or doing the Action Man toys in the box, that suddenly the volume of downloads for ChatGPT went through the absolute roof, didn't it? And it's now at a billion downloads across the world, which is what, 1/6 of the world's population have got a ChatGPT app on their phone.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like in terms of the video creation, because in the amount of time we waited for Sora 2, and just sort of, it feels like forever that you've been saying it's next week, and or relaying that message rather than you saying it's next week. So you obviously can't deal with that, but
yeah,
it's finally here. And obviously Meta Vibes has come along. You've got Midjourney, you've got VO3, which has been absolutely incredible. The fact that they've geared it up with a social media app as well as that way of delivering, and the social media app's also called Sora, isn't it? So you can use Sora for video creation and Sora for the social media app, and it's its own TikTok style. I think, and quite interestingly, we've got in the show notes as well about the OpenAI researchers who haven't necessarily all that happy with the fact that they're working in a company to sort of trying to cure all these medical problems in the world, and yet social media is the thing that's been released. And it's we touched on last week, and I think I said spam with relation to sort of the Pulse product of being able to deliver adverts to you. And I feel like this is another way for Sam Altman to start trying to get some of that ad revenue along, because obviously for every 2 or 3 videos that you look at on this app, there's going to be, I expect there'll be an advert in there that's sort of shouting for your attention as well. But the feature I really love, albeit I've only seen on YouTube videos and in the notes, is the cameo, because I can't wait to see you at top of the cameo list being remixed by all these people into, and I know Ogre and Mermaid and SpongeBob Bob is just 3 of your personal favourites.
That's my go-to.
Exactly that. That's going to be quite an interesting option, isn't it? And it's, yeah, I can't wait to see you what you create with that.
And it is an interesting moment because of the decisions that we will all have to make. And you know, being perhaps older and perhaps more sensible, I shouldn't allow my face and my appearance to be used by other people. Visage is the word, thank you. Because you know there's a huge risk with that, right? Because privacy and blah blah blah. But you know, I might still do it because it looks like a lot of fun. But these are the kind of questions that are going to keep coming at us. And I think this is what's really interesting about this whole kind of area is, you know, so right now we are going to make a decision, and many people are going to decide not to, whether you want your avatar to be in this kind of playground, almost like the sandpit, where everybody can just play around with it, and you can actually, you know, that they can make you into, I don't know, Iron Man. I keep going back to SpongeBob, Patrick Starfish, I don't know, or whatever, and just keep, and it will just drift and will go, and you will have no control over it. Apparently, you can see what people are doing with yours. So on your
even
own
in
feed,
the drafts,
you can see,
so what people are drafting up to use you for. That's dark, isn't it?
Is it really?
I can't wait to get hold of your cameo. That sounded threatening, didn't it?
It does. That's really, really threatening. But there's things like that. But then there's also this stuff like if you fast forward like 30 years, right, which is potentially in our lifetimes, then what we're all going to have to do is make decisions about, you know, am I going to augment myself? All right. So this is taking it to the next level, which is like, if you'll be able to kind of plug something into your brain, downloads all your memories and all that sort of stuff. And, or, you know, you might want a robotic arm because you've got arthritis or whatever. You know, these are going to be decisions that are probably going to be ones that we're going to have to make in our lifetimes. So yeah, this feels like it's quite a minor one on that trajectory, but it is really interesting because these are questions that nobody has had to have before. Nobody's had to decide this stuff. And I think it's just going to be fascinating going forward.
It makes those, like when a footballer moves teams, and or gets into the England squad, and suddenly the tweet from like 10 years ago gets dug up. It makes those almost feel like irrelevant compared to what someone's going to do with your cameo image, and create some interesting situations that pop up in your Sora social media feed in the next 15 years.
Yes, I've made a decision. So this is the crazy thing already. I've made a decision that basically the orange t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, I'm only going to wear that when it's actually me, because I'm worried that actually that I'll forget, or I'll like look at stuff and go, I can't remember if that was me or not. So yeah, so whenever you see me in the orange t-shirt, it's definitely me. But
I think anyone who
else is
listens to
free.
this pod, though, Mal, knows that you forget stuff anyway. So did we talk about that last week?
That's so true.
Or unless you're
Yes,
saying that was your avatar.
No. I just need to augment my brain pretty quick, is what I'm saying. A couple of years rather than 30. Right. So OpenAI Sora, amazing. It's going to be with us. I'm sure we'll come back to it in the next few weeks when it comes. But yes, one to look out for particularly. I think, yeah, it's going to change how people communicate, particularly on socials. All right. Next up, some more OpenAI stuff, just so that we kind of tick it through. As you say, Matt, the OpenAI staff are kind of a little bit challenged, almost philosophically, with where the business is going, right?
That's exactly it. And we touched on it a moment ago, but they're very much, we talked about these acqui-hires and people coming in with these, not just dreams. We touched on last week the fact that there's been progress in the battle against Huntington's, right? And you said about the Do It for Dom and Dom Subiani. So a lot of the time these staff are very much keen to push progress forward, but then having to battle against the fact that your next thing you launch is social media. But it's really been a week of releases, hasn't there? Even last night, during Dev Day, which is an OpenAI get together, they released Agent Builder, which is basically their equivalent of a Zapier or some of these other tools that allow you to build out processes. And that's something else that just dropped out of nowhere. And it's at the same time that things like Claude 4.5 drops out as well, right? So it's just every few moments there's something else to sort of take in and realize where the progress is being made. But for these OpenAI researchers, I think they're taking umbrage, but I think they've also got to realize that at some stage OpenAI does need to start making some money, and it's going to be through these ad revenues that they do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is already worth 500 billion, which is one of our next stories, possibly making it the world's most valuable private company. As you said, again, off air, it's roughly the same amount of value as one Elon Musk currently.
Can't believe you nicked that off me. One OpenAI equals one Elon Musk.
Yeah, so it is. It's going crazy. Once they put in ad revenues as well, then it's just going to go stratospheric. So yes, I'm sure that the good people who are working for OpenAI, if that is the bit that offends them, then I'm sure that they'll be looking elsewhere. Although where else they can go, where the Anthropic is pretty much still a sort of pure play sort of lab, isn't it? They're trying very much to be much more on the sort of safety, security, and doing AI for good side of things. Which brings us on to something that you just mentioned. Thanks, mate. Finally, I got a segue. The fact that Anthropic has launched Claude Sonnet 4.7. And this 4.5, this has actually kind of bypassed everybody, because it was released in amongst all of the tsunami of other stuff that are coming in from everywhere. But it's supposed to be amazing. It can do like 30 hours of coding all on its own, without being supervised, which is an incredible thing.
Yeah, it's a time where ChatGPT 5 had actually almost established itself as the number one for coders as well. And with I think it was going off for 21 hours, and sort of building out its list of things and tasks and sort of iterating on it. And then suddenly Claude Sonnet 4.5 drops, and it's 30 hours of just autonomous tasks that are being utilized. And it does feel like there's going to be a swing in between those two of them, but that's fine. It's good for Anthropic as well, because they had a bit of a tough summer, didn't they, with the fact that there's a lot of people concerned that they were sort of gearing down their models and dumbing them down and trying to save costs, and it wasn't as effective. But to come back and know that you can leave it running for 30 odd hours and it actually achieves something you want it to do, and it's it's got that better reasoning, better tool use, memory, and that context awareness. So very positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as a kind of aside, so how good these agents are now. I was preparing for the ICG event tomorrow. Again, really amazing things. If you can get there, then do sign up into the Innovation Collaboration
We'll both
Group.
be there, won't we?
Both going to be there, so it's going to be quality. But I was preparing my presentation. I'm not going to say I was doing it last night. I was kind of doing it last night. And I got Manus to do it, right? So basically I said to Manus AI, right, I've got this presentation to do. This is the topic. This is the brand, my brand. This is kind of the videos I want to include, blah. Go off and do an 8-slide presentation. And literally I left it running for probably about 25 minutes, something like that, and it's come back with something really good. So if you want to see what that's like, get yourself to the ICG. But yeah, it was just this idea that you can leave these AIs running and doing stuff for you is just incredible. Yeah, Manus Slides is a really, really good introduction for just what this is. And then if you can imagine that doing 30 hours of coding, then yeah, it's insane. All right, we are way behind schedule, so we're going to run through a lot of more stories as quickly as we possibly can. So we've now got Google with its Gemini-powered home speakers. So we now have AI in the home, listening and watching and understanding more about your every move and thought, don't we?
That's it. Ambient AI is sort of what we touched on last week, wasn't it? And actually, if you think about it, Google Home speakers, Amazon Alexa, which is further down the show notes as well, and even the sort of the AI-powered Nest cameras, they're all sort of sat there watching you. Even Siri, to an extent, they're all sort of slightly, dare I say, dumber for fear of them coming after me in the future. But
it is listening.
Dumber iterations of AI. But now with Gemini being baked into Gemini, and with Alexa Plus having sort of Amazon's version of their AI in there, means that you can have more solid conversational discussions with these speakers rather than sort of the call and response that we used to historically, or I'm sorry, I don't have that answer sort of situation. So I'm really intrigued by this, because it's all sort of, obviously, it's software and hardware. I'm intrigued to know whether we need to buy new Google Homes or new Alexa smart speakers, or if it'll be an upgrade to the existing ones.
The 14 ones in your house, are you going to have to throw them all away and start again?
Exactly that, yeah.
Yeah. we will
3 in each room.
Yes. When we know, we will let you know. All right. So that is our AI and tech news this week. We're going to move on to our tool of the week. Now, Matt, you've already started talking about this. So if you want to carry on, it's AgentKit from OpenAI, and it is like brand spanking new of only a few hours old, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly it. I hadn't realised you'd shifted that down to tool of the week. But for anyone who's sort of over time bolted together processes, so Zapier is probably the most famous one, whereby you can set up sets of rules and connectors. So you might say, for example, when I receive an email, I want it to check for something and maybe create a calendar appointment or something similar. N8N is another one that's maybe more geared towards software developers, but it's very much you'd be able to build out software flows or product flows. And as of last night at this conference, they launched AgentKit, which is being alluded to as Agent Builder initially. So you're able to design a workflow, and for anyone who's done process maps before, you can set out that process map, sort of have a trigger points, and then work through and set how you want your agent, Agentic AI, to work with this. So it may well be, as we touched on there, I've received an email from a solicitor going right back to the top of the show with an update, and I want to use ChatGPT to sort of scan that email, pick out the salient points, and then maybe connect it to my CRM, and to put a note into the CRM that covers that off. And then maybe off the back of that, it sends a WhatsApp to somebody else to say, we've had this update, and here's the progress of your case, Mr. And very much a visual representation of that, but obviously with all the power that comes with OpenAI ChatGPT below it. So I'm really interested and excited by this. I've been doing a lot with N8N and Zapier in the past, seeing it sort of fundamentally in there. But it's a continuation of what we talked about before, isn't it, with the apps that the ChatGPT are building around, OpenAI building around ChatGPT.
Yeah, around his core technology. And yeah, listen, I think it's going to be, the word game changing is used quite a lot, but I think it really is going to change how people can and do interact with a lot of their, as you say, processes and procedures. And yeah, I think it's going to be really impactful for businesses. Obviously we've got a lot listening in, and it's worth paying attention to. So AgentKit from OpenAI is a tool of the week. Go have a look. All right. So we started with legislation. We finished with process mapping. This has just been one wild ride.
Rock and roll.
Absolutely right. So listen, thanks so much, everybody, for listening. We are going to be back next week, and we're going to be somewhere glam.
I'll have my Factor 50 with me. Don't you worry about that.
Good lad, very worried for you. Yeah, we're going to be in Madrid for the Property Portal Watch and PropTech Conference, run by online marketplaces. If you don't have a ticket, go get a ticket. I don't think there's very many left. But yes, it's going to be really, really good, really exciting. And yeah, it runs from Wednesday to Friday next week in Madrid. There's also a startup day on the Tuesday. Again, so many really important and good topics to cover and great speakers on there as well. I think all of the major portals from the UK going there. I think that all the ones from across Europe and elsewhere too. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you, Matt, and we will be broadcasting live from the event itself next
Espanol.
Tuesday. My language is just terrible. Yes, indeed we will. Also Madrid and yes, Spain. So yeah, look forward to catching up then. Matt, obviously looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at the ICG. Again, great event, and then next week. But until then, have wonderful weeks. Enjoy. I'm sorry this went on a little bit longer than usual, but I hope you got a lot out of it. And we will see you next week. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Until next time, take care, everyone.